Welcome to Mattys Mental Health Podcast, aiming to spread awareness on mental health by sharing the real-life stories. Lyndsey Gaudet is here today. How you doing, Lyndsey?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's a
Good.
nice spring day. Sun is
It
up.
is. It is.
Warm weather's coming.
Thank God.
How you doing? Thanks so much for reaching out. You reached out about a week ago or so and wanted to come on, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a really good opportunity. And I am really happy with what you do. It's really important. So I appreciate being a part of it.
Well, thanks so much.
Mhm.
So I'll let you kind of introduce your story. Just get right into it if you want.
Sure, yeah. So like you said, my name is Lyndsey. I am 23. I'm giving like a backstory. I'm a transgender woman, and I also have a few mental illnesses, obviously. So before I start the story, I guess I'll just get those out of the way. I have diagnosed major depression, generalized anxiety, borderline, and OCD. So it's quite the list. But
Okay,
yeah.
right.
Mm-hmm. So I guess really to start my story, I'd have to go way back to when I was a child, which is probably the root of a lot of it. So when I was a child, I pretty much knew that I wasn't like how I was born. Like I just preferred like feminine things. I'm not saying like you can't be a boy and enjoy feminine things, but I just knew I wasn't a boy. So I didn't know if that was normal or not, because at the time it was like back in early 2000s. So being like trans wasn't like as like publicized as it is today. So I didn't even know what the term was, and I was a kid. And
so what was your earliest memory? Like, so just at some points, just kind of noticing that you gravitate more towards feminine things?
Yeah. Honestly, when I was like old enough to remember stuff, like when I was a toddler, I just remember I'd always like want to play with the girls. I thought boys were gross and all those typical girl things, yeah, as a child. But yeah, so I kind of realized that. And then the more I would hang out and have friends that were girls, I'd be like, I wish I could be a girl. I thought that was like abnormal at the time. Like I thought that was just me thinking, I don't even know, that I just wanted to be how my friends were. But then as I started to get a little older, it like was a constant thing of like, I want to be a girl. I don't want to be a boy. I want to live as a girl. And I was like, I don't know why I'm feeling that way. So I was pretty scared to tell anyone, because obviously I didn't know how anyone was going to react to that. But I'm really close with my mom, and I was back then too. So one night I kind of mustered up the courage to talk to her when I was a little child. I think I was in grade 5. And yeah, so I just went into her room and talked to her, and I was like, I think I'm a girl. And she was really supportive. I can't really remember specifics, but I know she was super supportive, and she felt really bad for me for like having, at the time I didn't know this word, but this dysphoria of my body not matching how I want to identify. So we cried and we hugged and all that fun stuff. And
that must have been a big, huge like leap for you to go like tell your mom at such a young age, like probably 9 or 10 years old.
Yeah, it was terrifying, honestly, but I just knew I had to like tell somebody that I loved and cared about, because I didn't want to like live on as something that I'm not. So yeah, it was scary, but the reception from her was really good. So
you just had this like overwhelming feeling from a young age of feeling more comfortable around females and being, or girls and being a girl.
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And your mom was supportive when you told her?
Yeah, she was super supportive. She really felt bad for me, because she saw like how much pain I was in for not being able to live that way, and how I want to be. So she was super supportive, and she actually was like researching, because again, at the time it was not a known thing like in media that what trans was. So she Googled it, and then that's the first time I termed her, or I can't talk. I heard the term transgender.
Right.
Cut that out.
That's yeah, that's a big big thing to kind of deal with at such a young age.
Yeah, it was pretty like a weight on my shoulders, especially
Yeah.
because I only told my mom, and then afterwards she ended up telling my dad. And my dad is supportive, but he was very like, you can't tell anybody because you're gonna get bullied, you're gonna be like beat up, all this stuff for if you live that way. So he was like, just keep it between you, me, and your mom, and like you just gotta get through school and then you can do what you want. And that was like
Right.
the most sad thing to hear, because I was like, well, I want to, like, now that I told you, I want to start like right now, like get it done. But
Yeah.
I was like, as a child, you take your parents' like word for like gold. So
Gospel. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I was like, okay, if I tell anybody, I'm going to be in trouble. It's not a good thing to do. So I just need to not do it. So I kept living on as someone I wasn't, and knowing, and my parents knowing how I actually felt. Um, so I guess the big next step was middle school, because that was when you start going through some stuff. um,
Right.
well, I guess another important thing I should mention is when I did tell them about me being trans, they took me to a psychologist right away. And the psychologist, I'm not going to say who it is, but if you know psychologist on PEI, it was the really bad one that doesn't work as a psychologist anymore.
Okay.
But yeah, for anyone out there. But yeah, so
Shout
they
out.
took me to shout out wherever you are.
That's funny.
Yeah. But yeah, basically every time I go there, he would just ask me like, well, do you want to kill yourself? And I'd be like, no, even though a lot of the time I felt like I did want to do that. And he was like, okay, well, you're good. I'm like, okay. So one time though, he did,
Thank you.
yeah, right. Exactly. I was like, okay, thanks, bye. Like I'm fixed and cured. Anyways, one time he mentioned something about like hormone repressants, like hormone blockers. So basically, if I took those, it would like prevent me from going through male puberty, which would like really fuck with my gender dysphoria. So I remember getting in the car and going home with my mom that day, and I was like, I really want to do that. Like, I need to do that because I don't want this to happen. And I was just a kid too. Like, I was like probably 11, and I was like, I need to do this. So it was
Yeah.
something I was really adamant about. And like, when a kid is adamant about something, it's like, yeah, like it's important.
Yeah.
So,
I keep going back to it, but it's so much to even comprehend at such a young age. Like most 11-year-olds don't really fully understand even what adolescence is or puberty
right.
and what that
And
really
like,
does or means.
I know, yeah. And I know that like kind of going off topic, but the case with some trans people is that they know like as soon as they're like I did, like when they're a toddler, like Jazz Jennings, she knew like as soon as she could like put stuff together, she was like, I'm a girl. And her parents were like, go on, girl. But then there's like people, I'm just naming like celebrities, I guess, and people like Caitlyn Jenner who were like in their 60s when they finally chose to transition. So it's like it's kind of like a wide range of you pretty much know though, like when you're at that age, you would know, but you're like living a lie, which is kind of sad because
Yeah.
you're like you should live your life, but it's different for everyone. It takes time to kind of accept that part of yourself. So
Right.
mhm. Anyways,
Do you
back to
know like
sorry.
when gender dysphoria is usually diagnosed?
Um, so it's usually diagnosed when, for me at least, it was diagnosed when you want to start taking hormone pills or for trans women, it's pills. For trans men, I believe it's shots, like needles. But the process to do that, you had to go talk to a psychologist. And I did this off island because, like, no offense, PEI, but the healthcare system here is a little shite, especially when it comes to trans stuff. So I was actually referred by someone on Facebook who I forget their name, and I'm sorry if you're watching this. They gave me the number for like what was it? I think it was like I don't even know. It was like the kids' gender hospital or something in Halifax. But this was like way when I was older. Like it was in 2016. So I'm kind of skipping ahead. But before I could do that, I had to get diagnosed with gender dysphoria, and I was diagnosed with gender dysphoria. But the criteria for that before you like can start hormones is that you have to have lived as the gender that you want to transition to for at least a year, like present that way. And I believe
Okay.
you also, what was the other one? Oh my God, not me blanking. You also have to, I don't know, I can't remember, but basically
Yeah.
you just have to be pretty like adamant and like living as your true self for at least a year. And I think experience like a really bad self-image regarding your gender, and like possibly be like mentally ill from it, like suicidal
Yeah.
and all that.
Yeah.
So I think that's the official criteria, but anyone can really, oh, sorry, I'm getting a notification. It's a bad thing about not having a laptop.
No worries. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So they just
yeah,
want to give like an official diagnosis.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I imagine
Yeah,
they just want to, like, from just the people I've talked to and stuff, like if someone was in like a manic episode and they just kind of decided you want to make sure that they're like it's real gender dysphoria, not like a manic episode or something, or like even kind of what's it, like psychosis or something like that.
yeah, exactly. And I think something that can kind of help differentiate that too is like um, the process I went through was like 3 hours with the psychiatrist, and I basically like did what I'm doing now, like went through my whole life in regards to my gender, like from
Yeah.
like as early as I can remember to that date. So they really walked like through it with you to make sure like, okay, so this isn't just something that just came up out of the blue as regards to like an underlying issue. It's something
Yeah.
that has been like prevalent in your life for like since you could remember, or since you were young or something, or at least a few years or something that you like found yourself. So I think that's something that can help differentiate those, because some people, I I bet, like I've never heard of it like a specific case, but I'm sure people in like psychosis or like in a manic state could feel that way and it
Yeah.
not be exactly true. But yeah, the diagnoses are very like careful with that to make sure it's like what you want, because once you start taking hormones, it's kind of hard to reverse
Yeah.
that. Hmm.
For sure.
Hmm.
So you go through that
Yeah.
process at 16. I guess we'll go back and just how was your school experience? So it was kind of like you're keeping a secret for
Hmm.
that time, junior
Yeah,
high, high school.
exactly. Yeah. So again, like keeping in the back of my mind, like what my dad said, you can't tell anyone, you can't do that, you're gonna get like harassed, like bullied, beat up, whatever. So I just try to like live my life and develop like how I was like, I basically, from what he said, try to like rearrange my brain to think that I wasn't trans. I was like, I'm just gonna live my life as a boy because that's what apparently everyone wants. So, and for a while, that's what I did, but it eventually got to a point where I feel like I couldn't do that. But anyways, school. So middle school was really rough because that's when like obviously things start to develop. You start to kind of, you know, get feelings and stuff like that. So I it wasn't really until grade 8 that I started getting bullied, because obviously I was different as fuck. Like, I was pretty flamboyant. So I just was always like questioned, and in public too, like in the hallways and stuff. Like, people would be like, "Are you gay? Like, do you like guys and all this stuff?" And I'd be like, "No, not at all, guys." Yeah, yeah. So I just tried to like hide it as best as I could, but it was getting so bad that it was like borderline harassment. So I
Yeah.
was like, yeah. So I pretty much was like, I just need to tell them something. So hopefully they'll just leave me alone. Like, they'll get an answer and then leave me alone. So they'd be like, "Are you gay?" Like another day. And I was like, "I'm bi." Because that was like a big thing back in the day. Everyone was being like, "I'm bi." Like, so
Yeah.
it's like, I'll
It's a
just
cool
say
thing to say.
that. Yeah. I mean, I guess that is true for me, but back then I didn't know that at the time. But anyways,
Yeah.
I just said that so they would like hopefully leave me alone, but then obviously it got worse, and they were just like constant like name calling. I remember once I was off grounds because I went to Stone Park, and I went to KFC with some friends, and the one bully that was like really, really bad was leaving, and he like looked at me through the glass and like just called me the F word, like yelled
Hmm.
it. And I was like, why do people like do this? Like,
Hmm.
what do they get out of it? Anyways, I guess they feel like shit about themselves, so they have to do that. That's the whole point of bullying, I guess.
Yeah,
But
there's that saying that hurt people hurt people.
mm-hmm, that's it.
Um, I think also too, like that age, like you don't, number one, like kids don't understand like the ramifications of their actions.
Mm-hmm,
And then like number two, they don't even understand their own emotions, why they're doing it. Like
right.
they're have these emotions inside of them that they don't even understand, and then they're just reflecting them, and they don't even understand that whole why that whole process or why they're doing it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I mean, like at
Mm-hmm.
teenage years, you're just like you're finding out all these new things and going through all these hormones, and you're just like testing the boundaries at every level. You know?
It's true. And like I really do think that's the case for a lot of bullies. And honestly, like, this is gonna be a little shady, but like some of the people that bullied me in middle school have like swiped right to me on Tinder. So it's like, okay. Anyways,
Yeah.
sorry, I had to put that
Full
in
circle.
there. Full
Full
circle
circle.
moment. Mhm.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah.
but
Well, I mean,
yeah,
yeah. It's just it's a reflection of something, right? How they feel.
exactly,
Usually.
exactly. And I don't hold it against them, but at the time I wish people would like speak up. Like, now that like today, like the anti-bullying movement is so huge, like if you see something, speak up or tell someone. But back in the day, like, people didn't really do that. So
Yeah.
it kind of felt like I was alone in it. But anyways, yeah, so
So
back
that
to
was
that
grade 8 when
story.
it really started.
Yeah, it started really in grade 8, and then when I got into grade 9, it was pretty bad still. It never got physical, thank God, though, or thank someone. But it was like a lot of like verbal stuff. So in grade 9, I just wanted to say that, like, because they were like, "You're too flamboyant to be bi, like you're definitely like gay." And I was like, "Okay, fine, I'm gay, whatever." Like, I was just saying whatever to like please them.
Just try to
And
get them away from you. Stop
exactly.
stop annoying you.
Right. And like, okay, is this what you want? Like, me to admit something that isn't even true? Well, they don't know that, but anyways, so I would do that, and then it was the same all through grade 9, and just name calling, harassing on the hallways, all that fun stuff. So I was getting a lot like really depressing going through that. And like
I
also kind
imagine.
of, yeah, and also kind of like repressing my true identity and not even being able to tell like my best friends. Because again, in
Mm,
my head, I was like, "Don't do this. They said not to do this." So
mhm.
I started to get like really depressed, and um, I started to self-harm a lot. This might have been in grade 8 or 9. It's around that time. I just forget around when. So I started like self-harming, and I attempted suicide a few times, but was never taken to the hospital, which is a little suspicious. But anyways, sorry, I like laugh when something's really serious. It's my coping mechanism.
Yeah, that's okay. It's,
Mhm.
humor cuts the tension, right?
Exactly.
Takes some power away from it when you laugh about it.
Hmm. Exactly.
I do the
So
same thing.
yeah,
Um,
good.
so what were the attempts like?
Um, they were, I feel like at the time, like I really wanted more so attention to get help rather than actually end my life. So
Right,
I there was a few times that I did it that I actually did want to end my life, but more so it was just like I needed attention from my family or like from society. I guess like people at school, like if they heard I tried to do that, like maybe they'll back off type of thing.
right, right.
But I actually was suicidal. It wasn't just like for that, but it was kind of like a bonus of that shit happened, I guess.
Hmm.
But so one time I tried to do it, and my sister walked in on me, and she just talked to me for a bit, and nothing ever came of it. So I was like, okay, well, whatever.
And
So
like, what method did you use? I mean, you can share as much as you like, but I think
mhm,
like it's good to share kind of like the mindset, because I think, people find themselves in the same kind of place sometimes.
exactly, yeah. I didn't really know many like methods to do it because I was so young. I just knew like you could take a bunch of pills or you could like hang yourself. So I was trying to strangle myself with like a phone cord, and my sister walked in on that. So it was, she quickly got me out of that. But yeah, it was rough
Yeah,
thinking about it.
yeah,
And I think a lot of people can kind of relate to that, maybe that are in my boat, or even just like in any like marginalized group, like that are like literally bullied, harassed, and like killed sometimes for just being who they are, like literally can't help it. I think
yeah.
people can kind of relate to that feeling of like helplessness and being alone, especially when you're getting like told that you're not right for this world and you're like abnormal and you shouldn't even be here, blah, blah, blah. So it can take
Hmm.
a toll on you. Like used to say sticks and stones can break your bones, but words will never hurt you. Well, they fucking do.
Hmm.
Hmm. Sorry if I'm not allowed to swear, by the way.
Oh, you're allowed to swear.
Okay.
No rules.
Okay.
Yeah, but I imagine like it's just it would play on your mind too. Like you would think like, why can't I just be like everyone else, or why can't I just like, you know, kind of like you said, like society's telling me I shouldn't be myself, and why couldn't, you
Hmm.
know, I fit
Right.
society standards like these people, and everyone's like bullying me because I'm not.
Exactly. Yeah. And again, like I think a lot of people can like, I'm gonna say specifically trans people can relate to um that mindset of why can't people just try to accept me? Maybe not nowadays, but back then, because it's
Mm,
a little more like
acceptable now.
socially accepted. Yeah, which is like it should have always been. But anyways, um, yeah. So most people are like that are in my boat. I would say would probably have that mindset of like, why can't we all just like accept each other? And like, why do you have to make me literally feel like shit and want to die for just expressing myself? It's so ridiculous to me.
Yeah, just being yourself, just being you, just existing, right? It's like, why?
Exactly.
Yeah. um
Hmm.
Live and let live, why why is this like a competing or like a conflicting thing?
Exactly. And if everyone in the world was the exact same, it'd be so boring. Like,
Yeah, for sure. I 100% agree with that.
hmm
Yeah.
yeah,
No, I
we
think
live
people
in,
should be themselves, whatever that is. And,
exactly.
like
Hmm
explore that. I think that's a big part of mental health today too.
hmm
And for everyone as a society, like we're all kind of trying to shove ourselves in this box of what we think is happy or what we think
Yeah.
society is telling us to do. We're not necessarily um like just exploring like who we really are, like, and that could
hmm
just be as simple as like you're just in a job you don't like, to buy things that you don't need to impress people that you don't even care, like, that's kind of I think that's a big one, but it just goes into every part of your personality that I think it's kind of suppressed in today's society sometimes.
I think so too. Yeah, for sure. Not a lot of people talk about that, like, aspect of wanting to feel like you are valued or like cool, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, exactly,
hmm
yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
all just about like what you think you need to be accepted by someone or a group.
hmm
And
It's like,
oftentimes like that's not really the same, like just going off the acceptance of others or thinking what doing things for others is never
hmm
going to make you happy.
exactly. Is my cat in the background? Oh my god.
It's like a guest appearance.
Yeah. Um,
Scurried off.
he's like, I don't want to be famous yet.
I don't want this clout.
Oh my god, not me laughing about this. Anyways,
so
yeah.
so transitioning from suicide grade 9 was tough. We had some suicide attempts.
hmm And it was also around that time too that my whole life I kind of had like a rough relationship with food. Like, it was, I would overeat a lot when I was a kid, but I would really overeat a lot when I was going through these things. It was one of my coping mechanisms. It was
Yeah, right.
similar to, like, not the exact same, obviously, but a similar coping mechanism to people who have addiction issues and whatnot. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So that was something that was taking a toll on me too, because I was gaining a lot of weight and I was like feeling not only gender dysphoria, but extreme body dysmorphia about like me gaining weight so much. And I couldn't help it because it was just something that made me feel good, like eating. I mean, everyone likes eating, but like it was like when you feel like you're completely alone and like you have nothing and you just like want something that like makes you feel good, like it's, yeah.
Yeah, it's food. It's a coping mechanism,
Mm-hmm.
something that makes you feel good when you don't feel good.
Exactly. So yeah, was that's when that started getting a little more severe. But yeah, so then I finished middle school and high school, like bully wise, wasn't actually that bad. It wasn't like to my face. It was like behind my back, which was fine to me, but still hurtful, obviously. Just a lot of people, because like in grade 10 is when I started to kind of like tell my friends, like my close friends, because I was obviously becoming like an older teenager. I had that mindset of like, okay, well, I don't care what you want me to do. Like, I'm not a kid. I want to express who I am, at least to the people that I love, so they know who I actually am.
Right.
So I think I told a few of my friends, like my really close friends, um, and they were super supportive, obviously, because they just thought the whole time I was gay. So they were like, whatever,
Right.
whatever, it works. Well, I think one of them was like, I knew that. And I was like, okay, well, my bad.
I already knew that.
Yeah. So that was at least like a little bit of relief to tell them and like be able to be my true self with them. But obviously, I was still like not telling everyone at that time because, like, as much as I was like, I don't need to listen to what my parents say, specifically my dad. But I was also like, I kind of want to like transition into it. um and take my time telling people. Like I want to like go from what they think is like a gay boy into like a really, really gay boy and then a woman to kind of
Right.
give them like a warning sign, I guess, that I was gonna do that someday. I don't know what my thought process was, honestly. I should have just said it, but I did what I did. So
You just
in
wanted to
grade,
start.
exactly, yeah, I wanted to start like appearing more. I didn't like I didn't, I don't want to make it seem like I did it for them, because I didn't. I was wanting to express myself like more femininely as I felt. So I did it for me, but also at the time I was just like a boy that was wearing like makeup, and I was obsessed with glitter because I it was around the time that, I don't know if you watched Big Brother Canada, but it was like season 1 with Gary, if anyone knows him. He was,
He had a bunch of glitter, did he?
yeah, he was really gay and I loved it. And he like had a bag of glitter and would like throw it everywhere, and it was like around the house and everyone like hated it, and I was like living for it though. But yeah, so I think on like anti-homophobia day, I like came to school with like a bunch of glitter in a bag and I threw it at all like the alleged homophobes. I'm not gonna say they actually were, but I knew they were talking about me, so I like threw it at them, and I'm glad I didn't catch a lawsuit for that. But
Just
yeah,
out there
so,
tossing glitter.
exactly. So I was kind of
Glitter
showing,
shooter.
literally, I was. But looking back, that's a little different, but you know, we do what we do and we do it without regret.
Right. Um,
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
so that's that. So that's kind of like, so that was all in grade 10.
Yeah, so that's when I really started to like um dress more femininely. Like from grade 9 to 10 was a huge difference, because when I was in grade 9, I would wear like nothing, not nothing, like nothing
It's
feminine.
completely
Like I'd
naked.
wear like just naked for the world to see and love, guys. um, I would wear like literal what we would call men's clothing back then, but
Right.
obviously like wear what you want. Um, but then from grade 9 to 10, I started dressing more like oh my God, I got this freaking cheetah scarf from our dean and I wore it like every day.
Right.
I loved her. Anyways, um, so people saw obviously that I was going from like dressing more masculinely to like I'm now presenting more femininely.
Mhm.
And that was kind of rough because the rumors and stuff in grade 10 about like me just being like super gay and weird and whatever, like it took a toll on me, obviously. So I was pretty depressed in private, I'll say. I was in middle school, I was like depressed in public, but in high school, I kind of tried to hide it more because I was going to be like that person that was like, I don't care what you say about me because I'm so fierce the way I am. But like, obviously, I felt like shit about it. So
Was it hard, like just constantly thinking and trying to manage how you're being perceived, opposed to just being who you are?
yeah, that was a really hard part of it. Especially like struggling with my gender dysphoria and like, please, my cat is right there. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Struggling with my gender dysphoria, and I was also not on hormone replacement or anything, so I was going through male puberty, so I was getting all that fun stuff going. I had the facial hair, and that was like the big one for me that caused the most dysphoria was my facial hair, because that's obviously what you see.
Yeah.
So that was like really hard, like internally. um so people like perceiving me as like this really, really like gay person, obviously, because I was like dressing more femininely. It took a toll on me because one, it was hurtful to obviously hear like people calling me names and stuff. And two, I wasn't what they were saying I was. And I'm like the only person that knew that other than a few select people. So it was hurtful in both ways, if that makes sense. So it was kind of like, it was really a depressing time, but that's when I started to like, well, I never really opened up as a child anyways, but that's when I really started putting on a front that I was okay. And I was like, I don't care what people say, like, say what you want, but I would like go home and like cry and like self-harm. It was, yeah. But I didn't make any suicide attempts, I don't think, in high school. It kind of like, I don't know, it got to like a plateau moment, if that makes sense. And then later in the story, we'll get back into some recent moments. But in middle school, or not middle school, high school, that's when I did that in grade 10. And then in grade 11, I'm going to jump forward. That's when I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm not going to lie to people. I'm going to just freaking tell them and live who I am. So I went on the popular Facebook app and I made a status because I had like everyone on Facebook that I went to school with, because that's just what everyone did. And I was just like, I'm transgender, like, sorry, but this is who I am and I'm gonna be who I am and I don't care, basically, like a grade 11 status. So I did that and the reception was really good on the status. Obviously, like people wouldn't like openly hate on me on the status, but yeah, people were still like saying stuff behind my back about that. Like they're calling me the T word, which I'm allowed to say, but I'm not going to. That's
Right.
just, yeah. They would like call me that behind my back. I'd hear rumors about me all the time, about me just being like this weird freak, whatever. It was really hurtful and hard, especially because I was dealing with that. And then I was also dealing with going through a puberty I didn't want to go through. And I was dealing with the fact that I didn't think I would ever be able to be the person I wanted to be physically and live that way. So it was pretty hard, but and I even myself, like I was getting comfortable with making, like I made that status and then everyone kind of found out because people would tell people. But then when I wanted to, well, at the beginning when I made the status, I was still using like male pronouns because I didn't want to like go right to that. But then it wasn't until grade 12 that I decided to like use my name Lyndsey now and use like female pronouns. But at the time, even like I remember in grade 12, like asking teachers, because my name wasn't legally Lyndsey at the time. So my name would be like my dead name on the attendance list. And I would go up to them like on the first day and I'd be like, can you call me Lyndsey? And they'd be like, yeah, sure. So that was like really hard too, to kind of like get out of my comfort zone and
Ask the teachers.
yeah, and like just ask people to basically view me as a female, because in my mind at the time I didn't look how I wanted to look. I did not look feminine at all. And it was really hard to be like, can you address me as a female, but I look like a guy? Like it's weird to me. It's not weird now, obviously. I was figuring that out. Like a lot of people choose to not physically transition and live how they want to be, and that's fine. But at the time when I was struggling with all that, it was like, it was a little anxiety filled. So that's where a lot of my anxiety came from around that time, was just trying to get people to like respect my pronouns, but also that internal conflict of I don't even see myself that way physically. So how can other people see me that way? So that was pretty
Right.
rough. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like you wanted to make that transition already, but you weren't. So you had this internal conflict, and then you're asking other people to call you that, but you're not even there yet yourself.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Physically.
Yeah. Right. It was just like weird to me. But yeah. So I ended up doing that. I had some really lovely teachers who were very supportive. I actually have some of them on Facebook, so if they see this, hi,
Sure they
thank you.
will.
Yeah.
So you started taking your, I didn't mean to cut you off, but you started taking your hormones when you were 16?
No, I took them in 2016. So I was
Oh,
like,
2016, right? Sorry.
I think I was 19 or 18 going on 9. No, I was just 19 because it was June 21st. My birthday's June 16th, Gemini.
Okay.
hmm
So you got through high school
hmm
and started to use pronouns.
Right.
Where does it go from there?
So, um, dealing with like that internal conflict, I was really close with one specific teacher. I'll shout her out, Miss Becker. If you went to the rural, you know her. She's a goddess. She really helped me like push past my comfort zone, I guess, when it came to my transition. She was super supportive, and she was like, I'm gonna call you Lyndsey because that's who you are and that's who you want to be, and I'm gonna use your preferred pronouns, and like please don't be afraid to like do that as well. And I was like, at the time, obviously, I was still like, oh my God, like I look like a guy. And like, I know I made the status and everything and everyone knows, but it's like so awkward to me. But she was one of the ones that really helped kind of like push me to be more confident and comfortable, especially in school. So that was really helpful. And so we got through grade 12 and I graduate, and I went to university for a year. So that was in 2015, I think. And that was around the time where I was like, okay, I'm done with school, like high school. I am an adult now. I want to focus on my transition as well. So in 2015, I focused a lot on legally changing my name and gender marker, which really oddly around that year or around the time that I did it, you used to have to, in order to change your gender on your certificates or ID or anything, you had to have received like surgery, like bottom surgery. And a lot of people were upset about that because, like I said, a lot of trans people choose not even to take hormones. They just want to like live as the gender that they choose. So they then changed it to you have to have certain requirements similar to your gender dysphoria diagnosis. Like you have to have lived as a female for a year, or not female, whatever gender you want, for a year. You have to get a note from your doctor saying that like they've known that you've wanted to transition since whenever, and you had to write in. You actually had to write something yourself saying like why you wanted to do it. It was kind of
Right.
a, yeah, they were really hitting you from all angles.
Right.
But yeah, so I did that, all that stuff, and I'm probably missing a few requirements, but those are the ones that I mostly remember. So then I got all my identifications changed, and I was legally Lyndsey and I was legally a female, and I was like, oh yes, like I did it. But now I want to focus more on my physical appearance. Also, at this time, didn't know it, had a lot of repressed mental illness that I didn't even know about. So it was okay around this time because I was making such good like strides with my transition. But I had a lot of like subconscious stuff that was still needing to be taken care of. So
Right.
yeah, so I guess I'll just jump to 2016. I only did university for a year because it wasn't for me. And then I ended up taking an aesthetics course in 2016. 2016 is also around the time that I started hormones. So it was in June that I started. So this is around the time that I got my gender like diagnosis. And okay, I'm trying to think if I told it right. I'm pretty sure I got my name and gender changed around the same time. And then yes, I did. Okay, sorry, I was making sure. I went to Nova Scotia because their healthcare system is a little better when it comes to trans things specifically. And that's when I met with a psychiatrist, and we had a lengthy talk for about 3 hours, and she diagnosed me with gender dysphoria. I think that was in May, by the way. I'm just remembering this as it comes. That was in May. And then a month later, they're like, okay, you're good to start hormones. And I was like, oh, great. Okay.
Jump right
So,
into it.
yeah, exactly. And that would never happen on PEI. Like, to be honest, I called many years ago to the woman that I'm not going to name, but everyone probably knows who it is on the island that is supposed to take care of that stuff. And they put me on a waiting list, and I haven't heard anything. And it's been like 8 years since I did that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
so there's easier access off island
exactly.
and
And
more
I was very
resources, it sounds like.
right. They actually have where I go specifically, it's called the Halifax Sexual Health Center. So it's for people, I don't want to say mainly the LGBTQI community, but it's pretty much centered around that. It's like for people who are transitioning, people who are HIV positive, people that, yeah, basically anything to do with like your sex, gender, or anything like that, or your physical well-being in that sense. So I started going there in June, and they had to do a few tests and stuff before they did anything, just to make sure like they could give me the proper dosage of what I needed to start and whatever. So that was like a 3-week process. So then I came back, and then they wrote me a prescription for my first hormone hormone prescription, I guess. That was something. That was like the best feeling in the world, honestly. So I
So
was
when you,
kind of stressed. Sorry.
I was gonna say, when you start them, what do they feel like, and what are the kind of things you start to notice?
Yeah, so when you start taking them, basically what it's doing is putting you through female puberty. So you do everything that someone going through female puberty would go through. So you would notice that your skin is a little more soft, your hair growth might be a little more long. You might start to develop breasts. You get more of like a, instead of like an apple shape, like a guy would have, like a beer gut, I guess. You get more of like a peach shape is what they call it, I think. So basically anything that like a cis girl would go through in puberty, you basically go through as well. So
And
it
is
was
that just, are they hormone blockers, or is it like estrogen pills?
um so it's both. I still take the same ones to this day, but I take, what's it called, spironolactone, which is a multi-use one, but that one is specifically to block like production of testosterone. And then I take estrogen. So I'm on 5 milligrams of estrogen right now, and I started at like 1, I think. Yeah. My dose hasn't changed for a while. It probably should soon, honestly, but I mean, I'm just happy to be on them.
Right.
But yeah. Did I
Is
answer
there a
your
number
question? I'm
that's
sorry.
is there a number that like that you get to, or that there's like a goal number of like a dosage?
The thing with that is that like a lot of people think that taking more estrogen will help you transition faster. And from what my doctor told me, I'm not a doctor, I don't claim to be one, but from what my doctor has told me, it depends on like different levels of things in your body. So like someone who's taking like 5 milligrams like me might be developing faster than someone who's taking like 10 milligrams, or developing at the same rate. It just has to do with like a bunch of different factors.
Right.
So yeah, it's not necessarily like the more the better, because that could really fuck you up.
Yeah.
And because
Right.
like not even to talk about like the physical aspects of transitioning on hormones, but there's also an emotional, like mental thing that comes with it. Like you get so emotional, like obviously as people do during puberty. But yeah.
So how long is the
But
transition? Like, is this like, do you continue over time? And it's sorry that I don't know this, but how, like,
no, that's okay. So basically for people who are on them, that I I might not even get this right because I haven't really gotten there personally yet, but like people who, I think the factor is if you get surgery, because anatomy lesson, testicles produce testosterone. So you take the blockers to balance that, and you take the estrogen to transition to a female. So if you decide to get the surgery, then obviously they're taking those out. So I don't know if you have to take the blocker still, but I'm pretty sure you still have to take estrogen because your body doesn't have like ovaries to produce that. If I'm
right?
getting
So
this
it still
all
needs
wrong,
hormones.
yeah, that's what I have been told at least. Like don't, I seriously don't claim to be like a human anatomy professor or anything. I'm just like,
Right.
this is what
Are you
I've
sure?
known.
I'm just kidding.
You caught me. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, it kind of depends on, I think, if you decide to get the surgery or not. If not, obviously you have to keep taking the blockers to counteract that production.
Right.
Um, but it's not that, it's kind of just boils down to what you want to do with your body. So
Right.
mhm.
So
Anyway, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, you can go, you can continue there whatever you like, but I just how has the transition been for you? How, like, taking the hormones and starting to transition, you're feeling these feelings, these emotions, seeing the
Hmm.
physical differences. How's that been for
Oh
you?
yeah. At first it was like awesome. Like I thought I could tell a difference like 2 days in. I was like, oh my God, I'm starting to get boobs already. But
Right.
yeah, that was just me hype myself up a little. But
Getting excited.
yeah, exactly. Um, so I was excited like right off the bat, and like look, I was like on top of the world at that point in my life. I was like, I'm literally striving, like so I was like looking in the mirror and being like, oh yeah, like I can see a difference. I can feel the softness of my skin. My hair is so voluminous, like all that stuff. So I was like loving it. Um, you kind of get used to it though at a point. So like now 5 years into it almost, like I'm pretty used to it, and my body is probably where it's gonna be for now with everything. So
Right.
another thing for me personally that I really want to do just for my gender dysphoria that I've been struggling with is like I want to get breast implants because I feel like my body is unproportioned in my mind. Like I want to
Yeah.
balance it and have more of like a womanly figure, but
Right.
that's just me. Not everyone feels that way. Like some people, like I keep saying, they choose not to even physically transition. So, but that's just
And
me personally.
have you looked into that? Like how you would go about getting that surgery and what it like costs, would cost money, or how that work?
Yeah, every province in Canada except PEI covers the cost of it. So
You're not allowed to
actually,
jump ship and go to New Brunswick or Nova Scotia.
literally, I'm gonna go swim over there.
But would they cover it because you are from here, or
um, that's something that I'm not too sure about. I'm trying to currently research that because it's only recent that I kind of wanted to start that. Like, I when I started hormones, I was like, I hope my breasts develop like really not huge, but like to a size where I'm like happy with them, but they didn't. So I just want a little more. But
Right.
so I just kind of came to terms with that, like probably in the past year or so, that I'd actually consider wanting to get that surgery. So I'm
Hmm.
still trying to research it, but I do know that um, it's covered everywhere else except PEI. I actually emailed Health PEI and asked them if they cover that surgery because it's essential for some trans women who have dysphoria with their body. And they didn't get
Yeah.
back to me yet. But is that a surprise? It's not a surprise.
Yeah. Well, I imagine that's why they cover it everywhere else, right? Because it would be deemed essential, I imagine.
Yeah, in my mind, it is. It's,
Hmm.
well, obviously, from my experience, it definitely is.
Yeah.
It can be like make or break for some people. Like some people could get, like specifically trans men who get top surgery, it could be like life-saving to them because
Hmm.
obviously that's such like a prominent trait, like it would fuck their dysphoria up so much.
Right.
So getting that done is like life-saving because maybe they don't want to live anymore because they don't want people to see them that way.
Mhm.
hmm So it's
Do,
definitely
do you know if
essential.
like the genital surgery is covered by the government?
It's not, no, it's
Okay.
not covered. It, I believe where most people go in Canada is Montreal because there's a really good surgeon there, allegedly. And I think for vagoplasty, I think is what it's called. I think it's 20,000.
Right.
And then for like going from like for trans men, sorry, I just blanked. For trans men, I think it's like it could be like 100,000. I could be wrong. It's really freaked up.
Yeah. That's
hmm
a big barrier to entry, even at 20,000, right? Like,
hmm
um,
Yeah.
for something that, you know, is
hmm
really affecting your dysphoria.
Exactly. And like I've been lucky because that has never been like my main cause of dysphoria because in my mind, like no one can see that unless I want them to. But like that I can like hide that away so it's not a big issue. My big thing was like getting rid of like my facial hair, which I, by the way, I went to laser hair removal treatments for. I didn't mention that earlier, but I did. And that really
Right.
helped my dysphoria a lot. And then also like what I was just mentioning, like the breast surgery is something that would be helpful too. Mhm.
How was the laser hair removal on the face? Was that painful? Was that a process?
Um, I have a pretty high pain tolerance, but it was kind of painful. And especially at first, because there was so much, it was really painful. And I like cried about it during it, which I was like surprised with myself because I do actually have a really good pain tolerance. But as you went on, like you have to go for
It can only be
quite a
so
few
tough.
sessions. Yeah, exactly. I had to let it all out. But yeah, as you kind of go on with more treatments, you kind of get used to it, or at least I did. So I didn't cry, but it did hurt. People say it feels like an elastic hitting your skin, and it doesn't. It feels really hot and like zaps of like hotness, heat, I guess that's the right word.
Right.
Mhm.
Hotness.
Hotness.
Um,
So,
right.
mhm.
So where does that lead you to kind of leading into today, like 5 years later?
Yeah, so basically, where did I leave off? Okay, so I started my transition. Yeah, physically. So I was kind of like at this point, I was good with my transition. Like I was like, okay, things are going the right way. Like I'm feeling better about that. What started to happen was one, a lot of traumatic things from my childhood started coming up in my head. Like I was recalling them. So that kind of threw me into a really bad like state of mind of like recalling that. Like, I'm so bad at explaining it, but you know what I mean. And
Right. So
then
you had all these like repressed emotions that were on top of the, so you got the dysphoria started to take care of, and then all these other repressed emotions started coming out.
exactly. And I guess I might as well tell the truth. That's what I'm here for. I don't have a close relationship with my father, and everyone in my life knows that. Um, I it stems from my childhood because he was very emotionally and mentally abusive to me. He would call me like every name under the freaking sun, and he would just constantly make me feel like I wasn't valid. But he was he didn't know how to be a father, I guess. Like he was never taught how to be a father. So he kind of realizes that now that he fucked up, but like it resulted in us like not we never even had like one emotional conversation before, like ever. So yeah. So I don't really have a good relationship with him. Like we coexist and we can be civil, but we don't have like any kind of emotional, like if I'm having a bad day, I'm not gonna go to my dad and be like, I have a bad day, can I talk to you? Like I'm just not gonna do that. But
Right.
so I kind of started remembering those, and I on a okay, when was it? I think it was okay, this is gonna sound stupid, but New Year's 2019 was like International Day of guys being okay with being with a trans girl. It was weird. Like from like 2018 to 2019, like guys were like coming at me, and I was like not used to that at all because obviously like people didn't want me before because I wasn't feminine or whatever, and I didn't know how to handle it. So I obviously like the attention though. So I went along with it, but it wasn't until probably 2020, like last year, that it started to really affect me because they weren't coming to me to like get to know me and want to like go on dates and like potentially date me. They wanted to use me for their little fantasy. And it was like really hurtful because I don't think human beings should be a fetish. Like if you want to do like any other type of sexual fetish that is like an inanimate object or something like that, like you go for it. But human beings have feelings, and being seen as like just a fantasy to fill for someone is the shittiest feeling in the world because
Yeah.
it brings you to that mindset of like, I'm not even like valued enough to be seen in public with this person to go on a date with them to see if we like connect, because they're so scared of what society says about like if you're with a trans girl, you're gay. Like if you're with a trans guy, you're a lesbian or whatever. Like it's so ridiculous to me. And obviously like if people feel that way and they want to like do that behind closed doors, you're transphobic. Like in my eyes, you're
Right.
transphobic because that's you're believing that stupid freaking thing. Anyways,
I
sorry,
think it
did you?
would. I think it would be like um I don't know if like it's like an internal thing where they're scared to like it's the same thing, like they're scared to actually show, they're scared of the reaction of others to actually show who they are, what they are, their sexual interest or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, and a lot of people like obviously nowadays with like the trans movement and stuff, like people are realizing you can be attracted to a trans woman and you're still straight. If you're a man and you're attracted to a trans woman, you're attracted to a woman, so you're straight. no worries. Like, so
Yeah.
that's what I just didn't get. Um, but the whole thing that kind of started to bring up more of my, um, I guess, mental illnesses was being treated, like being led on, and then like, I guess being led on to basically fall for somebody and then them getting what they want. And then they would just like ghost you, get rid of you, never talk to you again. And that happened to me so many times. And it was so painful. And at one point, I just got used to it. And I was like, oh, it happened again. Okay, next. Like, I put myself in that cycle because I
Yeah.
was very like, I was trying to be sexually active to feel like loved or cared about.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like in any aspect.
Yeah. Affection.
So, hmm so that happened a bunch of times, and then I, I guess something I should mention. I had a boyfriend from February 2019 to October 2019. I broke up with him, and I was like, this might be a little shady, but I was like on Tinder that same night because I was like emotionally done with him for so long. He was not a good person. Like, he wasn't a good person to me. Like, he was nice to me and he treated me well, but he like cheated on me and all this shit. So I was like, bye.
Yeah.
um, so I went on Tinder the night that I broke up with my boyfriend because I was like, I want somebody to like comfort me. Like, I want that connection. So I met this guy, and I'm not gonna say who it is. He's not from here anyways, but I don't want to publicly out somebody with what I'm gonna say. Um, so I met this guy. He actually super liked me on Tinder, and I was like, okay, cool. So I swiped
Super
right on
interested.
him. What?
Super interested.
Allegedly. But yeah, he was talking to me, I was talking to him. I was actually on the way to a hormone appointment at that time that he messaged me, which was fun. And so we just started talking, and then we decided to hang out like a week later. So he picked me up from work when I was off, and we just hung out and we did some stuff. And yeah, and then he like texted me when he got home, and he was like, I really enjoyed that. I really like you. You're a cool person. I was like, same to you. So the feelings were already starting to develop. And so then I think a few days later, we actually hung out again. And he stayed the night with me at my brother's house. Because I was like, not allowed to have anyone here at my house for like, I guess, like, I liked him, but my parents would probably think it was like weird to just have a guy they don't know over.
Right.
So we stayed at my brother's house in the spare room, and we were just like talking and doing some. Anyways, and he slept over. It was cool. So then I was really starting to like him because like there was emotional bond starting to form. So shortly after that, it wasn't too long until he started getting really verbally abusive to me over text. He would honestly, every time we talked, anything I'd say, he would try to turn it against me and be like, why are you saying that? You're pissing me off. Like, why are you doing this? And I was literally just trying to talk to him to be like, how's your day going? And he would like flip it around on me. And I was like, that's weird. So, but at the time, like, you're so blinded by that feeling of like what was happening before that you're like, oh, whatever, like, I'll deal with it to get there again. So
Right.
so I didn't really see him that often after that, and you'll find out why in a minute. But so every time I did see him, it would be like very, very late. And at his house, he lived in Summerside, I live in Stratford. So anytime he called upon me, I would be like bopping up there to get there real quick. And he would have school. He went to Holland College in Summerside. I won't say what course. Gotta keep it civil, but he went to Holland College in Summerside, and he'd have to get up at like 6:30. So sometimes I wouldn't get there till like 9, and he would just want to do the deed. And I was like, whatever, it's fine. Like, he likes me, it's fine. Anyways, so
Right.
yeah, I'm gonna try to make it fast because I know this is really repetitive. Sorry, I just had a voice crack.
That's okay.
So basically, just over the months, he was really abusive, like verbally would gaslight me anytime I said anything. And I didn't know it at the time. Like, I didn't think it was abuse. I was like, oh, he's just trying to look out for me. He told me he loved me. And I was
Right.
like, oh, I love you.
Yeah.
Like anytime he would think that I was gonna walk away, he would rope me back in with something sweet. He'd be like, oh, you're
Yeah.
so pretty. Like, you're so beautiful. You're so amazing. Also, a big thing with him is that he was closeted bisexual, and where he was from, he didn't tell anyone. So this was kind of like his outlet when he was here for school to experiment with that. And
Yeah.
I was like I wanted to date him, so I didn't really want that, but I was like, do what you gotta do. And he was like, I would date you if I didn't have to leave and go home or whatever after this. And I was like, okay, so we'll just enjoy our time together now, whatever. So one night he texted me at like 8 or something, and he was like, do you want to come over? And I was like, yeah. And it was like a snowstorm, and I still said yeah. So I was driving there. It was like whiteout conditions. It was a bad choice. And I was like driving, I was trying to get there fast so we could have more time together, but I was trying to like not go off the road.
Not die.
Yeah, gotta be alive to be there. So I was like driving really fast. Exactly. You get it.
Get there fast, but don't die doing it.
Literally. I love that. Okay. So I eventually get there. I had almost went off the road a few times because it was so bad. I was having a panic attack about it because it was scary. And when I got there, he offered me some marijuana and I took it.
Was it illegal at the time?
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Wait, did you say illegal or legal?
I said illegal.
No, it was legal.
Okay, just making sure.
Good. Okay, sorry.
That's really what we do in this podcast. We just catch people.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, I'm exposed now. It's time to go. No.
So he gave you some weed?
Yeah, he had a really big bong. It was like just like so tall, and I was like, okay, like I'm gonna take this to try to like calm down. So I took a bong rip, and I immediately started like coughing and like throwing up, not like throwing up, but like gagging.
Almost.
And I was like, yeah, and I was walking around and I was like, oh, this is gonna be a night because I'm about to green the fuck out on you. And I did green out, and I remember just wanting to like cuddle with him on the couch and be like, take care of me type thing, because he said he cared about me. Like, just cuddle me, put me to sleep, like let's have a little cute sleep moment. But instead of doing that, he sexually assaulted me because I couldn't say no or yes. So, and at the time I didn't think that was the case, but it was. And a lot of the things he did to me really, like, I have flashes of it because I was like in a I guess greened out state. So I would like go in and then go out. So I remember coming in at times where he was making me do things to him. And then another thing that was kind of scary was before I came, he was like, I guess I should also mention, he wanted to do a lot of kinky things with me, and I was personally not comfortable with it because that's just what I didn't want to do. Like I
Yeah.
wasn't shaming him for it, but I just didn't want to do it. I said I would
Yeah.
do like, I did agree to do a few things with him because I wanted him to not like want to leave me, whatever. So he asked me before I came, he was like, we should like go on a webcam like website and like take a video of us like doing it. I was like, I don't really want to do that. Like, I don't even want to look at my body, so I don't want like a bunch of people to look at it. Thanks. And also because like I just wasn't interested in being in that light on the internet. So a scary thing that happened was he took me to the bedroom. He had to like physically drag me. Like I could walk, but I was like out of it. And he was setting the laptop off, like facing the bed. And I was like, I remember being like, "Are you recording this?" And he was like, "No, it's just like I'm playing Spotify music or whatever." But the laptop is pointing directly to the bed. So I still don't know to this day if he did it or not. I didn't ask him. I don't think he would confess to it either way if he did. But then I just went out and I remember coming in and he was raping me. Yeah, that's what he was doing. So that all happened, and he did some other stuff that I'm not going to mention because it's kind of triggering and gross, but it is a kinky thing that some people like doing with a certain fluid in your body. And I didn't want to do it. And I told him that. And I didn't say it at the time. I couldn't respond, but he did that to me. And then he had friends over and literally put me to sleep in his bed. Like nothing happened. And he was like, "Don't make any noise. Like, don't do anything. No one needs to know you're here." And I was like, "What the fuck?" Anyways, so quickly after that, like I was I was like, whatever, like I was going over for sex anyway, so it's fine. But in my head, like subliminally or my subconscious, I was really hurt that he did that to me because I didn't want him to do it. I wanted him to like take care of me when I was in that state.
Yeah.
And he kind of took advantage of me, not only not getting my consent, but also he did things to me that I didn't want him to do.
Yeah.
And like I told him I didn't want him to do. So I think it was like that proved if the like verbal harassment and like gaslighting didn't prove it, this proved that he didn't care about me and he was just trying to rope me in to stay with him. So that was a big thing that really fucked me up mentally. He also one day me and my friend were in Summerside. I texted him because this is when I was still like in love with him. And I was like, "I'm in Summerside, like we should hang out." And he was like, "I'm with a friend, but maybe later." And he's like, "Why are you here?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm just with my friend." And he was like trying to push us to have like a three-way. And I was not comfortable with that at all. And like I don't see my friends like that. I don't want to see my friends like that, and my friends don't want to see me like that. And he was like, "It's just been a fantasy of mine to have like a three-way with a trans and a cis girl." And at that point I was like, "You are just a trans fetisher, you just said it. So thanks for wasting like so many months of my life for no reason." So
Right.
I told him I was done. I was like, "Don't talk to me ever again. You're a piece of shit. Like you don't deserve to talk to me." I was like feminine power. It was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a really big thing. And then he actually, so this is around when COVID started. So the event happened, like the assault happened in February. I told him I didn't want to talk to him again, like in March. And he ended up having to go home because COVID started. So they were ending courses early. He ended up coming back in August because he had to finish from September to December. And he messaged me on an app on Grinder. And he was like a blank profile on there, which is basically just someone who doesn't have a picture. And then he just messaged me being like, I know I was a huge asshole to you. Like, I'm sorry I learned this summer. And I was like, oh, I think I know who this is. And
Right.
my stupid ass was like, oh, maybe he did change. Like, maybe he's good. So we FaceTimed that night, which was stupid. And I never really got to talk to him much. And then it wasn't until September, this past September 2020, I was at my friend's birthday and I was talking about him and she was like, isn't he dating blank? And I was like, I don't think so. And she was like, well, you might want to like look at her like Visco because it's just pictures of him. And I was like, okay. So I looked at her Visco and it was like the whole time he was talking to me, he was dating her. And that literally broke my fucking heart. I was like, okay, so now I was literally like guaranteed just your little fetish out like thing when she wasn't around. So I messaged the girl and I was like, are you dating blank? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, okay, well. And then I
Got
told
some
her
news
all
for you.
about what, literally, I was like, girl, get ready. So I told her all about what happened and like over the past few months. And she was actually with him when I did this. So he messaged me on freaking Snapchat and he was like, stop, I'll explain everything. Stop. I'm a literal idiot. Blah. And I was like, okay. So I was like yelling at him. I was like so pissed. I was like, no, you can literally go fuck yourself. And like all this stuff. It was kind of funny. But I was like going off at him. He ended up deleting me on Snapchat because he was trying to like play it off like he didn't know who I was. He was like, she's like, I asked him who you are, and he says he doesn't know who you are. And I'm like, he's literally from Alberta. How would I know who the fuck he is if like I wouldn't
Right.
like he's not from PEI. I wouldn't know who what his name was and like all this shit.
So
Anyways.
it sounds like you know the relationship was toxic and purely sexual from his part.
Yes. And I'm
So
sorry for the long story, but
no
I
worries.
had to get
But
it all
so
in there.
yeah, so how has it been like kind of dealing with that? And like I guess like I don't even like have you thought about like legal action for the assault? Like, has that crossed your mind, or like how's this whole thing been going through your
So
mind?
it wasn't really like in my mind. I think I had an issue with coming to terms with the fact that it was sexual assault because I was like, I was going over there to probably have intercourse, but when I was in that state, I couldn't consent. And even like before I was like last time I talked to him, before I got him off everything, I told him about that because I pissed. And he was like, I asked you and you said it was okay. And I was like, I don't remember it. So it wasn't okay. Like you saw me, you had to literally physically pull me. So why would you want to do something to someone in that state? Anyways, so I didn't really think about like legal stuff because there's so many freaking cases of people who are brave enough to come forward with their story and actually have proof and stuff like that, but it gets like thrown out the freaking window for whatever reason. Like I have a friend that I won't mention who was sexually assaulted and she has like text messages from the person being like, I don't want anyone to think I'm a rapist. Don't tell anyone about this. and she got like a rape kit done and everything, and like nothing happened. So I was like, if nothing happened then, like nothing's gonna happen from what I am gonna say, because it's just my word, like it's nothing else. So I think my fear would be trying to, I guess, trying to legally serve him in like a corrupt system, if that makes sense. Because people don't take most sexual assault cases seriously, it seems, and it's freaking heartbreaking. Yeah, so I want to now. At the time I didn't want to, but I would love to ruin his life for that, because he's really destroyed me and a lot of people. I found out just recently actually that he hooked up with one of my friends that does drag with, or I do drag with. He hooked up with one of those people. He messaged another one of them. I was like, okay, so this man was literally hooking up with all the islands. Like, I felt gross about it. And
I just felt like we got some construction going on here.
All good, all good. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
So yeah, so you're saying like it's been really tough to deal with that, and to kind of, that's just recent. It's very recent, right?
Yeah, it's very recent still. It's just been a little over a year or so. That's around the time that my mental health started to deteriorate again, because of my transness in a different way. Like, it wasn't because of my gender dysphoria or whatever. It was because I truly believed that I was only good for people to like have sex with. And I thought that was my only purpose in life. I was like, I'm never gonna find someone. And knowing now, obviously, I know I'm borderline. So a really big thing with my specific borderline diagnosis is that I have a tendency to attach to people. I have a tendency to need like constant reassurance. If people text me like a certain way, I'll take it as like they're mad at me. And like, I need like constant like love, I guess, like admiration. And it probably has to do with
constant reassurance.
Yeah, constant reassurance. And it probably has to do with the lack of male presence, I guess, in my life when I was a child, with my dad being so whatever. So yeah. So that's, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Do you think this is common? I've heard this perspective before, that it's tough for, it can be tough. Like, this is kind of a, like, maybe other trans women have a similar story where it's hard to make relationships.
Yes. That, I think, has to do with that stupid thing I mentioned earlier. People are afraid to publicly, not everyone, there's many men out there who don't care. Like, I'm talking to someone right now who doesn't care, and he's open about wanting to see me, so that's great. But I think a lot of people are scared, especially like people like men that have a majority of guy friends who are stupid and think that that would make their friend gay, and then they would get ridiculed for it, and then they would, you know, basically go through what a trans woman goes through. So instead of like allowing themselves to be with someone that they have a connection with, that they want to explore more with, they get scared from that societal stupid thought, and they just don't want to form any relationship with a trans girl outside of maybe hooking up in like private. And it's really hard, like being a trans woman, and that's a big reason why I wanted to talk to you today too, is to kind of like advocate for that, because I think it's something that a lot of people don't have perspective on, is that it is really hard, because as humans we like crave attention, and we crave like a partner. So people like basing not wanting to get to know you off of something so stupid as like your genitals is so like heartbreaking.
Mhm.
It hurts my heart, like it really does. And yeah, I just feel for all my trans girls out there, because it's hard. It's hard to find someone who, like, there's people out there who are like, oh, I accept it, I just don't want to date a trans woman. And I was like, okay, so you don't accept it, got you. Like, you,
Mhm.
if you say you accept trans women and you believe they're valid, but you're like, I don't want to date you because you're trans, that's transphobic.
So that
You
would be
know?
like the people
Yeah.
that are interested, right?
Yeah.
So they're interested
Yeah.
in you, but not interested in dating you,
Exactly.
right?
Mhm. They just want a
So it's
quick
all, it
little
just goes back
behind.
to what we were saying about like scared of being seen or what. Yeah.
Exactly. And a lot of guys are really rude. Like, I've talked to a lot of men that are like, oh, I'm so glad you look like a girl, because like I don't want to be seen with like someone that doesn't look like a girl. And I'm like, okay, well, good thing I am a girl. And that's why I look like one, you freaking old gross man. And yeah, it's rude. Like, some people are just really ignorant and disrespectful. And I've had like everything you can think of on dating apps. I've had people match with me just to like tell me how wrong my life choice is. I've had people who said like, I'm glad you look like a girl. I've had people who want to just hook up with me and lead me on. I've had people who wanted to date me, but it didn't work out. Like, I've had
Mhm.
it all. And honestly, like, it's just, I feel like it's more amplified when you're trans, because it's something that people want to like experience sexually, like people who are really sexually like active, which is fine, like that's cool. But there's a fine line between like wanting to be with someone that you care about and are attracted to, and wanting to be with them just because they have something that you want to like experiment with. It's, yeah, it's really hurtful, because you do feel like you're a freaking like sex toy. But
Yeah, it's a purely sexual connection over like a real connection.
exactly, and that's what we all want, like as humans. Like, we just
Mhm.
want to have a emotional like connection and vibe all with someone, and then that is something that's added on to it. It's not, you don't start with that and then have nothing else in
Mhm.
a relationship. So obviously they don't want a relationship, they just want that. And
Mhm.
it's really hard, because for cis girls, they can just go online and guys are like, ooh, okay, you're my girlfriend. I'm gonna take you everywhere. I'm gonna take you to Ibiza. But
Mhm.
yeah, yeah,
I think it's like, I think it's um, like even for straight girls, like it's, I think it's just kind of like there's a hookup culture in general too, like just in
hmm
general. But then it's
hmm
probably like even more so for for trans girls, where
yeah,
there's that, even there's another barrier where it's
right.
like the hookup culture is pretty big on Tinder, but then
hmm
you know.
Yeah, you're right. There's a really big hookup culture, especially on the island, um, especially with COVID. Um, but yeah, it's something that I think all women go through for sure. I think just the difference is that people are public about that. Like, there's been a select few of people, select few, I can't talk. Okay, select few amount of people who have taken me on a public date, and it's probably under 10, which is nice. But like people who want to get to know, like, say someone who is cis, they wouldn't be like apprehensive to take them on
Right.
a date. They would just be like,
Yeah.
we're out on a date, like we're gonna get to know each other.
There's no
But
hesitation.
and that's like the double standard moment, because it's like trans women are women, so why is it different for you to want to do this with a cis girl but not me? And that's where the pain comes from, because you don't feel like that makes that like invalidates your womanhood. And
Your
I'm
identity.
speaking, yeah, exactly. And I'm speaking just like on behalf of trans women. I'm sure it happens to trans men too, or people who are non-binary and whatnot. But just from my experience, like, yeah, it can be a little hurtful. Anyways, I guess I should move on from that and tell you a little more. So that was basically what I was all going through. I was working a retail job. I didn't feel like I had a future doing anything. Like, I wanted to go back to school. I didn't know what I wanted to go back to school for, but I wanted to do more than what I was doing. I just didn't think it was in the books, because I went to school twice and it didn't work out. And so in July, I finally had a emotional breakdown, because I was holding in all my emotions. I didn't talk to anyone about anything. If I was upset, people would be like, "What's wrong?" I'd be like, "Nothing," and I'd be like, "I'm fine." But it all came to the top and then just broke out. So probably around the beginning of July, I started to self-harm again, because I was feeling immense like emotional pain with men. Well, that's just my life in general, but immense emotional pain with men just using me for that. And I felt like I had no purpose, because with my now diagnosed condition, I know that I place a lot of emphasis on wanting a partner and needing attention. So the
Yeah.
fact that I wasn't getting that, and I was just getting used for something that I have, but in private, it was just like, it made me feel like not even human. So I was like, I'm not even worth living. Like, I'm gonna never find someone who's gonna love me for me, and like all my demons coming up. So I was self-harming. And then on July 17th, I snapped, and gonna I was like writing notes, because I was gonna kill myself. And I got a call from my mom, and thank God, because I feel like if that didn't happen, then it would be a different result. But um, I picked up for whatever reason, and I told her everything, and I was like, I'm about to kill myself, and I need you to come home right now. And she was like, oh my God, like, okay. And she like ran home, or drove home, and she was on the phone with like people in the mental health district on PEI, trying to find like what they can do for me or whatever. She finally found, at the time, the little Hillsborough walk-in mental health clinic. I don't know the official name, but they found that out. So or my mom called them, and they said to come in. I went in. I was like distraught, like I literally just wanted to die. And they were like, I was talking to the triage nurse, and then I talked to another nurse, and then I talked to a psychiatrist. So the psychiatrist was like, after talking to me, she was like, I suspect a diagnosis of borderline, and you're gonna need to take, because at the time I was taking the Talipram and it wasn't working. I should have mentioned that, but that's what I was gonna use too. But
What was
I
that for? Is it Telegram?
was for depression.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't working for me though, but I didn't tell anyone.
Right.
Um, so they started me on a Fexer, and they started me on a super high dose. it was like I had to be weaned off of citalopram. So I had to do that for like a week. And then I had to take like 37.5 milligrams for 3 days, and then 75 milligrams for 3 days. And then I could start my 150 milligram dose, which was super high because super depressed. But they also gave me Seroquel, and they were like, if you ever feel this way, just take one. I was like, okay. Anyways, so I went home and I was around my family. They were not really leaving me alone because they wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to do anything, and really depressed and really still wanted to die. And so I ended up actually going back to the walk-in clinic about a week later because I had another episode, and I went back and was talking to them again, and they were pushing Richmond Center really hard to get me a therapist because they were like, if you don't, like, if she doesn't get a counselor, like, she's gonna probably, you know. So I,
We're
yeah,
gonna
so I
die.
ended up,
Maybe.
yeah, that. I could just say it. I was gonna die. Yes, that's right. But yeah. So sorry, I'm trying to remember. Yeah. Okay. So I got a therapist really quick after that. It was like 2 weeks, and then I also got a peer support worker, and I heard about the REACH program, which is amazing. So for anyone that doesn't know what that is, it's a mental health and addictions recovery program, and it helps you kind of like get back into the workforce and back into like life. So I heard about Reach and I applied for it because I really needed it, and I had an interview and I got in. So I was in the October to January class, and my time at Reach was literally, I say, my turning point in life, because like just a few months earlier, I was working retail, hated it, wanted to die, but didn't tell anyone, and like almost just tried to take my life. Got a new diagnosis, and I was like, I don't know what to do with this information. Like, and then they're like, you need therapists to like start doing CBT because that's the only treatment for borderline. And I'm like, great. So I got into Reach, and then it was really helpful because they give you so many like resources, so many coping mechanisms when you're in a manic state. Um, so many like even just like things to help you get back into the world. Like if you want to go back to school, if you want to go work, if you want to do whatever. So I a big emphasis like at the beginning of the course was what do you want to do? And I was like, well, when I was a kid, like I was kind of like wanting to help other kids. When I got older, like I wanted to help young people. So I was like, I remember when I was younger, I wanted to apply for the youth care course at Holland College, but I was like, my God, it's stupid. I was like, that has so many requirements. I'm not even gonna bother. I was like 19. So
Right.
yeah. But then at the time I was like, I might want to do this. And then they were like, yeah, like you can definitely do that. And Reach is really good to like allow you to use your time to do what you want to do to better your future. So there's like in the morning you would do like essential skills until like 11:30 or 12, and then in the afternoon you would do like production, which is because they make like wooden stuff and they also make soap. So but if you wanted to do something, like if you were trying to like get like credentials or something for a program you're applying for, you could do that instead. Like they're very flexible and they are just there to help you do what you want to do. So I started like formulating a resume and goals towards getting into that program. And you actually do a job placement too in the 4th month, which is the last month. and I did mine at the Boys and Girls Club. So, by the way, Kathleen says hi to you. I forgot to mention.
Oh, that's
so.
I worked there for like 2 years. I love that place.
Yeah, she told me because I won't get into it right now. But she says hi. I forgot to mention earlier. So shout out to Callan.
Yes.
Yeah. So I
Callan's
got to
best.
draw. She rocks. Oh my god. She was a really good one. Whenever recently I was going through my relapse mental health moment, she was so understanding. They all were, honestly. They're all amazing. I love them.
Yeah,
Anyways,
yeah.
so I did my job placement there. So I guess they liked me. So they hired me afterwards, which was very nice. And I love it because I love them. And I had to do 100 hours at working with youth was one of the requirements to get in there to the program. So I did that at the Boys and Girls Club, and I forget all the requirements, but it's just a bunch of stuff. So I ended up doing all the requirements before February 28th, because that's the deadline. So I applied. And a few weeks ago, I got a letter saying I got accepted. So I was like, oh my God.
That's awesome.
Thank you. So I'm very excited with that now. And it's kind of like everything in my life has led me to this moment, like all the bullshit and like all the like attempts and all the bad stuff has like led me to this point in my life, because I'm in a spot now where I like know my worth. I'm not just some kind of sex toy for people to use. I am going to do a course that I have wanted to do for a long time, and I just like love myself. Like,
That's beautiful. That's awesome.
yeah, thank you. Like there's obviously hard days, like where your inner saboteur rears its ugly head, but like for the most part, like I think I'm a good person, and that's what matters most. And like none of the materialistic shit matters. Like it matters how you treat people and what you put out to the world. And I'm like such an advocate for my communities, and I yeah, like I'm proud of myself for doing what I've done in my journey. So that's where I'm at now. And I'm also properly diagnosed. Another thing I guess I forgot to mention is that a few months ago, I was diagnosed with OCD, like I said at the beginning. And that was something that I knew for a long time, because people with OCD have like certain rituals they have to do, or they believe there's like a sense of impending doom. So I was doing all this stuff for my whole life. So I already knew that. But one of my things is, I think it goes like hand in hand with my anxiety and my OCD, is that I play with my hair a lot. So like I will like twirl it to the point that I have to like pull it out of a knot, because that's just my shit, I guess. So yeah. So all through all, you made it, Matt. You made it
Made
through all this,
made through the story.
through my
Well,
long ass stories.
listen,
But
I just want to say like thanks so much for sharing all this, and like
mhm.
I'm really happy to hear that you're becoming, going to a better place, and kind of figuring out who you are, finding what you like to do, and Boys and Girls Club. I love that place too. That was a good place for me, finding myself as
Yeah.
well.
Mhm.
And, that's really awesome. It's really, I just want to say thanks so much for sharing the story. And I think like,
Yeah.
it
Thank
could
you for letting
potentially
me.
help many in similar situations.
Exactly. And that's really what I want to do, because like I said, there wasn't a lot of people advocating that specific feeling or like thing that happens when you're trans. So that's a big thing that I wanted to share, and let people know that if you're going through this, like you're not alone, and it does get better, and there's resources, and you can do it. Like, I believe in you. You're gorgeous.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Seems like a good place to end, Lyndsey. We'll end it
Thank
there.
you.
And I'm going to send you a gift from our sponsor. I got some sea salts here, some cooking sea salts.
Ooh,
This
we have a
is
sponsor.
yeah. The
Oh my God.
Prince Edward Island Sea Salt Company. So 40% of all
Nice.
proceeds go to mental health programming at BEI.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you.
So I'll send those off to you, and I just want to
Oh,
say
for
thanks so
me.
much.
Oh my
For
God.
you.
I thought
Every
you were
guest
just
gets
like,
it's a box. So I'll
oh
send
my
those off to
God.
you.
Thank you. That's so sweet. Thank you. Thank you to the sponsor. Thank you to you. Really appreciate that. And thank you for letting me come on today and speak about that. I know it might seem I was a little like nonchalant about my experiences, but like I said, my humor and my way of talking is my way of coping. And yeah, so I hope everyone knows I was 100% serious when I said all this stuff. It's just how I talk.
No, that was awesome. Thanks so much, Lyndsey. Have a great day.
No worries. You too. Thanks.